There's a pause there, and
the news weren't ready.
yeah, we were chatting off the air. But insurance, there are good folks and bad folks in every walk of life. You know, it's not. There are good agents, and there are ones that are just swine, and they want to make more money from themselves and screw you. That's how
That's
the world.
life.
That's how the world works.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not just insurance.
We gave Shay Flynn about a month and a half off from the madness of discussing this city government situation, which has gotten the dander of I don't know how many people up. And I think for good reason in some ways. If there's any backstory to any of this, there is the fact that Shay has sat here for what, 4 or 5 years and foretold what was going to happen. And in lieu of the governing bodies of this town doing something about that in advance of the fecal storm that hit, no one did anything. And then all this came to pass, and the outrage and outcry has been remarkable. And you've been right there in the middle of it and have been called many things, I'm sure, as have your colleagues. I don't know who to point fingers at, whose fault this is, what the answer is, and no one else seems to either. But you've been pretty upfront with, you say, with the Facebook crowd that would like to perhaps kind of cut your head off downtown somewhere and
they're not big fans.
And
They're
put on a
people.
stick.
Yeah.
So what have we learned? What have we accomplished?
Is this
Where are we going?
Is this something from the past that has come back to haunt us? The transgressions of our forefathers or something like that?
It's all of the above. I mean, it's certainly, if you go historically to, I mean, speaking completely about the benefits issue, you can trace it back to 1994. Is really like the moment of original sin, and then there were some subsequent decisions made. But that doesn't take us off the hook. I mean, the fact is, we made a mistake. We underfunded the pension in 2008 when it was at 102% by about $6 million. And that was a mistake that the council made, and we need to stand up and own that. And then 2008 happened with the market, and it just got worse and worse, and we had not addressed it, and now we're in a position.
And that's
where we
on the
have to
city
address
council.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough blame to go around on every person involved in this.
I have,
that
yeah.
you know, anyone can point a finger and dodge, but at the same time, you have to stand up and own what you did.
And people can say that the market is considerably better than it was in 2008.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen this much just discussion and anger and disappointment among people that are not just the usual haters, because that bunch is their own separate club, but people who were promised something for their years of service to the city, who are now, the game has been changed, and they're pissed. And you really can't argue with that anger.
No,
but
not at all.
and there's nowhere to direct it, and nobody has an answer. I guess the only question is, which we've been asking for months, and I asked the mayor, and AC could. I mean, he's a very smooth politician, but the question remains: what the hell is the answer to this? It's August 20th. You've got until January 1 to make some kind of counter move on this, but I don't see this being turned around. I don't understand it.
Yeah, and it can't be on the ballot in November to have a tax increase to pay
Yeah.
for some of this. That's been decided.
but I mean, and this was a lot of the confusion yesterday about that, and the reason that Ms. Fuller pulled her resolution or ordinance for that was because when they wrote it, they wrote in the heading, and this is a little ticky-tack procedural thing, we cannot amend the heading. And whatever the heading says, the body of the language has to conform to that. And they put in there to hold the election on the November date. At no time was that ever going to be mathematically possible, because I've done a sales tax referendum or two in my time, so the statute that governs that is very, very specific. And if the city council had continued to pass that, once it's passed, it's not active until 40 days pass that allows the county their opportunity to supersede that.
So why did she even bring it up? To try to look good to her people for a few minutes?
Because she quite frankly, didn't understand the process.
That's a shock.
And we all knew it, but that does not mean it can't come up at any time. The only reason the November date was desirable was because the state and the federal governments would have paid for the election because they're already holding one.
Mhm.
Now, if we have a special election, the city has to reimburse the Shelby County Election Commission for it. It costs about $1 million,
Mhm.
just under. And that's why when I'm talking to the proponents of that idea, I'm like, well, you might want to start the petition drive. I mean, let's be clear, you're not going to get enough signatures because those signature requirements are very, very daunting. But it will show momentum. It will show, that yes, the other two got smoked at 70-30, and maybe this one has a chance, and the people deserve their right to have their voice heard on.
Shay Flynn is here from the City Council. We're discussing this mind-boggling, confusing issue that has been haunting this town for a couple of months. When AC was here and he wrote in the newspaper on a Sunday commentary a few weeks back, his opinions on this, which seem factual enough, he refers to this state law continually. Explain what this state law mandates and why it apparently can't be superseded by anything. It is what it is, and we're just screwed.
Well, I'll explain the state law, but
Okay.
I don't think the state law is an issue here.
Okay.
I mean, all the state law is essentially doing is telling us we need to do what we should have been doing all along.
Okay.
Right,
So we need to fund the pension ARC, the annual required contribution, fully fund that.
Right.
And because we have a healthy pension, generous pension plan, it's a lot of money, and we're pretty cash-strapped government. Out of that particular operating budget, I mean, we can get into the separate budgets, but so we're going to have to come up with about $60 million, depending on what the pension design plan looks like, that we will have to fund for many, many, many years.
Yeah, and that hadn't really been addressed yet. That's still
No.
the other part that's hanging out here like a ghost.
Yeah, we'll be taking that issue up in October, and we'll see a lot more heated response. I mean, this is, I mean, that's why you got to go back to 1994 when they made decisions. Previous councils made decisions that those chickens are coming home to roost. That is
Mhm.
not to let us off the hook for some
Right.
of the things we've done either. I mean,
Right.
Everybody's going to make mistakes, and you have to be upfront about them, what those mistakes were, and resolve not to make them again in the future. But when in 1994, when they took all the city employees and said we're going to treat them just like we treat police and fire, so now it's a one-size-fits-all policy. Then you had councils that made well, if you've been serving 12 years, you can 12 years and out, and they included elected officials in that. And these are all loopholes that we've closed over the time, but it just grew who all was taking it, and opened up potentials for abuse in it. And now we have a really, really tough situation. We got to figure out our way out of it.
So, what do you say to people who are attacking you and attacking the council and the mayor? I guess you have not run from this. You've engaged people in conversation in various forums and such. What do you say to them when they come to you with this eyes bugging out, red-faced and angry because their lives are being financially killed?
Well, the first thing you have to do, and I think that the administration, and I've told the mayor this, has done a very, very poor job of communicating what was actually done. And that's not to say that there aren't people that are being severely negatively impacted, but it's not exactly how it was seen. There are, about 1,100 of the what are pre-1986 employees. They retired before '86. They never contributed to Medicare. They're not Medicare eligible. Nothing changes for them. They're still on it. If the widow or widower of an officer or firefighter killed in action, nothing changes for them. The line of disability, nothing changes for them. Then you have about 1,400 that are Medicare eligible. They will be able to go on Medicare and get a Medicare supplement, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, my mother's on that. That's a fine way to have health care in today's America.
Right.
Then there's about 940 who either have another job. These are all retirees that either have another job or they have a spouse that has another job. Now, what we don't know, what we're still waiting to hear from the administration, is how many of them are eligible for that insurance and
Mhm.
what that does. And then you have 270 that are pre-65 retirees. They're not eligible for Medicare. And you have the healthcare exchange. And that's really the toughest group right there. Then there's other issues that are impacting them, which are, you know, the spousal carve out. So you have to find out what their particular issue is,
Mhm.
and then see what can be done about it.
Right.
You know, you have to go more case by
This is-
case
yeah,
basis.
this is not a one-size-fits-all thing.
Exactly.
And so, I suppose the vocal minority or majority, whatever they are, those that were affected by this have been very, very vocal and very passionate about this. And then the other residents of this city were spared a property tax increase. And so,
For now.
you don't hear them bitching, but you hear the vocal, these cops and these firefighters and their spouses are the ones that are picketing and carrying signs and are really outraged by this. But so back to your comment for now. At what point again is this property tax thing have to come into play? And I think that maybe if there's any upside to this, it's the fact that these things are inevitable and we're going to have to pay some more money if we expect the quality of life and services that we want.
Well, and to be completely fair to the healthcare side, the firefighters union presented a plan yesterday in committee. It's going to be heard again. You know, I think there might be some tweaks that can go to it. I don't know if they'd like those anymore. I mean, healthcare is changing everywhere for everybody,
Yes.
and it's
It is.
more expensive and it's not as pleasant.
No.
And there's going to be some of that. So I'm not ever going to tell
Right.
the employees, you're going to like what's coming next, because it's going to be a change, and it's probably not going to be a change for the better for you. But that is an external pressure that's happening everywhere in the country. We cannot avoid it.
Right. I agree with that for sure.
The pensions are, you know, that we still have to discuss that, but you come down to, we have $100 million problem. We have a $620 million budget, $400 million of which is police and fire.
Mhm.
That, you know, so how you solve that, you know, there's going to be different phases to it. The state law gives us about 5 years to ramp up. I think we need to do it much quicker than that, because we've got elections coming up next year for the municipal positions, and I think we need to be held accountable. You know, whether it's a tax increase, whether it's voting on these retiree health care benefits, as politicians, you need to know who you're voting for and what they're
Yeah.
going to do, not what they're going to say they're going to do.
Yeah, I expect some sort of a bloodbath between now and then, in the interest of ass covering and running for re-election and all of that nonsense will start to play into this dynamic and into some of these decisions that we that must be made. But I just no one see, this is such a gray area in so many ways, and there's a palpable sense in this town that the police that their attitude, their morale is really suffering. You can sense it, I think, on the streets, and I don't know what that holds. It seems like that the leadership of some of these outfits is really on the wane, and that somebody needs to do something of a decisive nature and move some people out and move somebody with some guts into some of these jobs.
Well,
that's just my opinion. I wonder from the sidelines if you see some of the same things.
I mean, I'm sure morale is not at its highest point. You know, given what the choices we made, but as a legislative body, we're in it. Damned if we do, damned if we don't. And before this is all over, it's probably going to be everybody damning us.
Yeah.
Because we're not there yet. Even with all these really drastic decisions we had to make, that only gets us about halfway there to solving the problem.
Yeah, this is nowhere near to being close to over.
Exactly.
And then you have the average Memphisonian who watches the local news and sees some of your colleagues are busy playing video games rather than paying attention to what's going on during the meeting.
Yeah, that was not really.
Hey, she
positive.
gets standing ovations. I get booed, so I can't criticize what she's doing.
That says a lot about something. Well, there's no point in belaboring this. I just wanted to have you up here and.
Well, we missed you.
Oh,
We did, and this is I think it is ignorant and ill-advised to blame this on you or on anybody in particular. This didn't just happen overnight, which has been discussed, and a lot of people are blinded by their anger and don't look at the root causes of problems like this and the many, many moving parts to this thing. And once again, this has just begun.
And the problems in Memphis, and I've had to say this a lot to a lot of people, it is really, really easy to state, and it's really, really tough to solve. We have a declining population and an increasing poverty rate. That right there is at the root of every problem in the city of Memphis. Now, how you fix that is a hell of a job, and it's complicated and it's tough, and it's at times painful, but that's the mission before us for the next 7 years. I mean, we don't have a huge window to do this.
And I think that also that people, and this applies to so many things, are tired of being talked to like they're stupid. And some of these news stories that I have today here. New program invests in future Memphis leaders. Okay, that's a nice idea in theory. Leaders talk health care options. MPD not tracing guns found on the streets. MPD does not have to be militarized, says Mr. Armstrong or whoever else. All of these things that just seem to be lip service and a bunch of ass covering.
It's the issues of the day.
But they're just news stories that have no answer, just a bunch of statements from politicians.
And when we talked about, what was the one earlier this week where you get, or it might have been the end of last week, where we're paying cash to people for going to work and going to the doctor.
Yeah, that
making
really.
sure their kids are in school.
And I don't
Programs
wanna,
like that upset the average person who works their butt off at
Yeah.
least one job to get by.
And I wouldn't have A.C. Wharton's job for any, but to come out and say that they've targeted 600 people to receive cash bonuses for going to freaking work. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that program, and Mr. Strickland is a big critic of that program, actually.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, it's ridiculous.
So he'd probably be better. He's got a stump speech on it, I think. But
I'm not trying to attack you. I mean, it's just this kind of crap that we sit here and look at every day, and you wonder why this city is full of unhappy, discontent people. It's ridiculous.
But at the same time, there are things to be happy about. But it really is. I mean, just looking at the numbers, you look at the problems with pensions, problems with benefits. It's all centered around a dwindling tax base, and unfortunately, as that tax base dwindles, the more impoverished part grows, and that takes a lot of resources to serve an impoverished population, and you don't get anything back from that, but you have to do it. Now, as far as this idea of paying people, I mean, on the one hand, it does strike you as just, you're rewarding them for doing what they should be doing anyway.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, when you look at the future generation, if you're going to go in on, and break the cycle of poverty, somewhere, sometime, you have to just stick a spoke in that wheel and make sure that the incentive system works. I mean, I know up in New York they were
paying your kids for getting A's and B's.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Here's you get $10 for every A and $5 for every B. You're bribing your kids to do the right thing.
So on that particular issue, I will say of being of two minds about it, not having given much thought at all, because is that one, I agree, theoretically it's ridiculous, but if someone shows me that it works, it might, it's just crazy enough to work, it might be worth it. I don't know the answer.
It's hard to say. Yeah. There are two sides to every issue at hand here, in some cases, and
sometimes
in some sides,
more than two.
There's more than two, and sometimes there's one.
My side, your side, and the truth.
Yep, there's that, but it doesn't really. I don't envy your position at all, but I think it's worthy of discussing this stuff on occasion. I think what people want is some kind of an answer and a solution, but it ain't going to just happen overnight. And I just fear the coming months and the posturing and the nonsense that will go on before it. This last county election is baby stuff compared to what's going to happen in this town next year.
But it doesn't have to be. That's what we all have to remember in this country. It does not have to be. The public can demand a higher level of debate, and that's what they deserve, and that's quite frankly what the city needs.
Well, there were some statements made in this county election about some of these people that needed to go, and everyone knew it, black and white, and they got them out.
Yes.
And
yes.
if this city is smart, the same thing will occur next year with some of these clowns that need to go away, far away.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Well-
Whether I'm in the clown category or not.
No,
I mean
you're kind of on the edge.
yeah.
You're not wearing like that red wig and nose yet or anything.
No.
But some of your colleagues are. But we thank you, and we enjoy seeing you, and you're honest about this, and that's all anybody can ask for.
That's right. And just let Lambo know I did not in fact get canceled. He's been leaving
Well, Lambo's
mocking.
he's a stirrer of the pot.
He is.
He's an ongoing problem.
He's sitting at home making mixtapes.
That's what he does.
Get a job, dude. Thank you, Shay. We'll see you here soon when it's safe for you to come back out.
Thank you.